Welcome to Celtic State of Mind. Not your regular host Paul John Dykes, but it is myself, Colin Watt, and I'm absolutely delighted to be joined by a Scottish actor and comedian. You'll know him from Scot Squad. It's Manjot Sumal. Manny, how are you doing?
I'm not bad, mate. How are you?
Surviving. That's a bit as good as we can get at the minute, isn't it? I mean,
that's all we can do.
We're recording this today on the first day where lockdown's sort of been eased in Scotland. So what's the plans? Are you planning to go round to the in-laws or your family for a bit of a barbecue? Or
I'm still paranoid, so I'm staying home for the next couple of weeks. I'm not going out at all. No, with the easing off, I mean, my wife, she wants to go around and see her parents. Obviously, we live with my mum, so I'm lucky in that sense. But she wants to go around. The only thing is we've got a kid. She's about 2 years old, and my brother-in-law still stays with his parents, and he's got kids, so they're going to be wanting to play and mess about with each other, and we still have to keep the social distancing, so it's going to be difficult. But we're going to see. We'll see over the weekend what we can do. How about yourself? Have you been stuck at home? Have you seen family or anything like that?
Yeah, so I mean, I think my family's actually kind of sick of the sight of me. Our washing machine broke just before this kind of happened, so I've been washing off. I'm not quite fully independent yet, but no, I think it'll be good. My girlfriend, she's looking forward to going round and seeing her family at the weekend. It's been a long time, and I think this will hopefully help ease some of the pressures that's been on a lot of people during this. I mean, as we say, the weather's lovely, so we've got to really enjoy it. This is probably our 2 weeks of a Scottish summer.
That's it. I mean, it's our boiler broke a couple of weeks ago, last week actually, and it's unbelievable the change in the weather, because last week it was freezing. We didn't have any heating in the house, and it was Baltic. And now this week, the wee one couldn't sleep last night because it was so warm. The flipping weather it's unbelievable. Yeah, the weather's nice, so go out and enjoy it. Why not?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I feel your pain. We've got a couple of Tower fans going on here, and we talk as if we're coming from a foreign country, but this is Scotland.
That's it, yeah.
We're going back and looking at Scotland, so we take a look at the football side of things. We've obviously we've rightfully been awarded, to put it correctly, the 9th title in a row. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, that Scottish football was an absolute pantomime at the minute.
It's been a pantomime for a while, to be honest. I mean, it's a joke, isn't it? Really, what have we got, like 3 different organisations for 4 leagues or something like that? What's the point? There is no point in that. But in terms of the league itself this year, you know what? It had to be called off. There was nothing that you could do. We couldn't finish the games, right? If we had to finish the games, it would have gone on to later on in the year. There wouldn't have been enough of a break for the players to come back for next season, which would have had an effect for, was it the Euros next year? They had to be cancelled to next year as well. So it's like, what can you actually do? You have to either call it or disrupt everything else. And common sense says, let's just call it now. The majority of the league has been done. You've played most of those games, and to be honest, the gap was significant enough that you can say there are clear winners here. Yeah. But I know that there are Rangers fans who's going to be up in arms and saying, well, there's still a chance. If it's still mathematically possible, then it is a possibility. We should keep playing. But I can understand where they're coming from. But in terms of logically, you have to end the season. And if you end in the season, then whoever's at top, for the money that's going to get paid out and everything else, and for position to be finalised for the European Games next year, you have to set that in stone and say, okay, these are the league leaders, these are the winners, and this is who's going to get relegated. So unfortunately, there are always going to be winners and losers. Everyone's always going to be up in arms about something. If the season had gone on, I'm sure that lots of Celtic fans would have been angry about that as well, where they would have said, no, let's end the season. So, you know, you have to look at both ways. But for me, logically, it made sense to end it when it did.
Yeah, and I mean, if you take a look at things now, it looks as if English football is going to come back in the middle of June. A lot of the leagues around Europe are coming back, but they're spending a lot of money on testing their players pretty much on a daily basis. That sort of money Scottish football just doesn't have. So, I mean, you're right, it was logically the right decision to call the league when it was called. And as you say, the only outcome was for Celtic to be crowned champions. 9 seasons in a row. What do you make of this sort of decade of dominance that Celtic's had over the last 9 or 10 years?
It's been a strange one. It's been really strange. I mean, obviously with Rangers, what happened to them, and them, be careful about my words here, but having to start again in the bottom leagues. It's been strange because it feels like there hasn't actually been any competition for Celtic for 4 of those years. But to be crowned 9 in a row champions, it is a special thing. It's the second time Celtic have done it. And it feels strange that we have to celebrate in this kind of way, where we can't actually go to the ground and celebrate with the players and be with the fans and everything else. And it'll be awesome when we're finally allowed to do that again. But by then it's going to be a little bit case of, oh, that was a few months ago. We're celebrating something which has already happened kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it's a nice achievement. It's just the way it's happened, which is kind of a shame. For the players especially, because they've worked very, very hard. And for the fans as well, some of them, like lifelong fans, have gone there every single week, every other week. For them, it would have been amazing to see as well. But you know what? We're 9 in a row champions. No one can take that away from us. People can call it tainted if they want, but we know the truth. And people are just arguing about it. So it's a massive achievement, and well done to the team.
Yeah, I think that's you're spot on there. The idea of calling things tainted and we weren't here to compete. You can only play what's on the park, and at the end, Celtic have won it by winning the most amount of points. It's not as if there was any point where there was any sort of underhanded contract situation going on. There's been none of that. Celtic's won it fair and square, and you're right, it's just people that's hurting, that's putting a taint or an asterisk on a title. It's been won on the park, and that's the bottom line.
That's it. I mean, I don't want to labour the point too much, but like you say, you can only play what's put in front of you. And it's not like Celtic, where the only team in the league. Every team is playing for something. Every team every week is playing for 3 points. And it was up to the other teams to try and stop Celtic. It almost happened a couple of times, but at the end of the day, Celtic are the dominant team. But you know yourself, it swings and roundabouts. Rangers used to be on top for quite a long time. Then it was Celtic. Then it was Rangers. So it's always going to be that way. We can only hope that for the good of the overall game, that there is more competition in the league sometime in the future. Hopefully not soon, because we want to keep this dominant streak going for as long as possible. But for, like you say, for the good of the game and to try and bring a bit more money into the game as well, let's have a little bit of competition going on and make it a little bit more exciting.
And it's quite interesting because this is a good transition for you, because we're now celebrating 9 in a row. But one of the first memories that I've read that you were in for was when we stopped 10 in a row back in 97, 98. So is that really the first time that you concentrated on Celtic or on football as general, was back in that season?
Yeah, I mean, it was a strange one. I was always a Celtic fan growing up. My dad was a Celtic fan, so he passed that on to me. I went to a Catholic school, so that was sort of, they were all Celtic minded there as well. So we went to a couple of Celtic games with them, and I always used to play football, but I never properly followed the team. Mm-hmm. They were always in my heart, kind of like, oh, it's Celtic, I'm a Celtic fan if you asked me, but I never properly followed until that year, that 97, 98 year. And I don't know why it was, but I just started watching the highlights, sports scene every week, and I just started watching them every now and again. And then I saw this guy with dreadlocks, and I'd heard about him, like Henrik Larsson, obviously. My friends were going on about him, but I'd never properly seen him play. And you see this guy with dreadlocks playing, and you're like, he looks so cool. I'm glad he's a Celtic player. You want to see more of him. And then you start realising, wait, the team's actually doing something, they're challenging for the league. Could it actually happen? And the fact that it went down to the last game of the season and we had to win, it was a weird sort of time, because I wasn't, like I said, I wasn't hugely following them, but by that point, by the last game of the season, I was like right behind it. And I remember going out, my sister and I went out. I didn't listen to the game, I didn't watch the game or anything like that. We just went out to town, and I remember coming back home, and it was about 5:15 at that point, and I didn't know what the result was. I didn't know who'd won the league, but I walked in, switched on the TV, and I saw Tommy Boyd on the pitch, and he was just walking, but he didn't look happy or anything. He wasn't smiling, and I was like, oh man, we actually lost. They've done it. They've done 10 in a row. And then they announced that, yeah, Celtic have won the league. And I thought, oh, fantastic, we've done it. But it was such a strange time. I remember we drove after that, I went out again and we drove down to Partick, and the car broke down, typical. But we drove down to Partick, and I was running to the payphone. Kids, we used to have payphones, which you'd put money in and you'd be able to call people. I was running to the payphone to get the tow truck out, and I was running by a pub, and there was an old guy just standing outside, and he was shouting his head off, and he was shouting something, but I couldn't hear him properly. And as I ran by him, he's like, we're still the best. We're still the best. And I was like, yeah, we are still the best. Then I ran onto the phone box and then called for the tow truck. But it was a strange time. It was an awesome time. And unfortunately, we lost the next season when Wim Jansen had to leave, which was a shame. But yeah, it was just a weird time.
So you're saying like you went to the games when you were in school. From then, like the 97-98 season onwards, did you manage to get to more of the games from then on?
There's a strange thing with me, especially, and I'm not saying this for the rest of my community at all. This is just a thing about me. I grew up in Maryhill, and are you from Glasgow?
No, Greenock.
Greenock. I studied in James Watt.
Yep.
I grew up in Maryhill, which was quite a rough area at the time, and we used to get quite a lot of racist abuse towards us. From that, psychologically for me, it was a case of I don't want to be in a place where I'm not comfortable. And because I'd never gone to games to begin with, being in an environment like that, especially where there's so much passion, so much swearing going on as well, I was kind of uncomfortable with being there. So I never really went to games myself, but I had a couple of friends who had season tickets, and every so often one of the season tickets would come up. Someone couldn't make it, so they'd pass it on to me and ask me if I wanted to go. Just I went with them a couple of times, and you know what, the atmosphere was, it wasn't what I thought it was going to be. It was much more friendlier, it was much more jovial, it was much more celebration type thing. And especially when you're winning games and you score a goal and the guy next to you who you've never met before hugs you, it's like, oh, okay, cool, this is awesome. But yeah, I mean, I wish I could have gone to more games, and I'm going to try to go to more games. But again, from growing up in Maryhill, growing up in a 2-bedroom flat, it's that thing of always saving money and kind of justify paying that amount of money to go somewhere. And even though I'm comfortable with my life just now, that mindset is still there where I'm like, can I justify that? Like, I bought myself a new phone just the other week, and I was toying with it for like a month or two whether I should buy it or not. And funnily enough, just as soon as I bought it, the boiler went kaput. So it's always something, isn't it? So yeah, I mean, I'd love to try and get more games. If Celtic want to throw a couple of complimentary tickets our way, Colin, you can come with me. Then I'd be happy with that, But yeah, I'd like to try and get to more games.
What we're saying is the next charity game, you're up for it. Get you in there, and we'll see if we can get you some tickets for games from there.
Yes, it'd be a dream to play in Parkhead, wouldn't it? Just to trot out onto that grass. And yeah, the stadium's going to be a quarter full, but still, just to play there, it'd be amazing. But yeah, I'm on it, everyone who I know, to try and get me into a charity game for Celtic, but we'll see whether that works out or not. So start a campaign, start a petition, get me on it.
Yeah, I spoke to Gianni Capaldi a couple of weeks ago, who's actually played in some of the games at Celtic Park, and he says it's just incredible just walking out in front of all the crowd. His first one was at Dunfermline's East End Park, so it was only a couple of thousand there, but he's played in front of 60,000 as well, and he says that's more nerve-wracking than going in for any sort of audition, for any role. So just to give you a heads up, this is what it could be for you when you go forward.
I'm okay with just stepping over that line, running, kicking the ball, and then coming back off again. I'm happy with that. I'm not the best footballer in the world at all. I tried doing sit-ups today for the first time in ages, and it didn't work at all. So I am really unfit too. But yeah, just to be by the touchline and just see it from that view would be amazing.
We go back to sort of that period. So you were saying, obviously, Henrik Larsson with the dreadlocks, absolutely iconic. Was there any other players from that era that you kind of idolised when you were growing up?
I wouldn't say idolised, but from that team specifically, guys like Jackie McNamara, Simon Donnelly, Paul Lambert, I admire him because when I played football, I was always midfield, and just the way he plays, Paul Lambert was phenomenal. Yeah, he was a good player, and some of the goals he scored were fantastic as well. Yeah. But I mean, you had like the players that I mentioned, and then following on from that, when I really started to follow the team, I think players like Moravchik, if he had come to Celtic when he was younger, what would he have done? Yep. But he was phenomenal for his age. And I remember when he was first signed, the papers were mocking him, and the media was like, who is this guy? Why is he coming to Celtic? Yep. And then within the first couple of games, you realised, wow, this is a player. This is a player. But him as well, and Nakamura. I like my midfield players. I really like my midfield players. And players like Didier Agat, he was phenomenal for me because he came from Hibs and he played as a striker for Hibs, I'm sure. But he played on the wing for us. And his pace was phenomenal. The only thing with Agat was his confidence. He just didn't have the confidence. When he got behind players, when he ran by them, it was phenomenal, but he just didn't have the confidence to whip the ball in, which was a shame. But yeah, beyond Celtic, players like Zidane, I think if I had to pick up favourite players, Zidane would be it. The way he can control a ball is unbelievable. I've watched some of the compilations that people make on YouTube, and just to see what he can do with a ball, it's unbelievable. And it's scary to think that there are players that can do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think if I was to pick one favourite player of mine, it'd have to be Zinedine Zidane.
Yeah, I mean, one of my earliest memories of football, and I'm going to show my age here, is the goal that he scored at Hampden against Bayer Leverkusen. And just watching his technique as he brings that down, not even thinking about it, bang, top corner. It is one of the iconic goals, and Zidane was a world-class player. But as you're saying, we did have some great players around about that era as well. We're talking about Paul Lambert, Simon Donnelly, Jackie McNamara. Someone else that we just interviewed recently as well, that probably doesn't get as much praise as what he should have for that era, Harold Bratback, scoring the goal that obviously won us the title. But
how ironic is that? He was slated all season and he scores that goal, which makes us win the league. Phenomenal.
It's crazy. I mean, that era, and as we transition into sort of Martin O'Neill's era, and from then onwards, there's been some outstanding players. And you mentioned the likes of Nakamura, you could add into that likes of Petrov. I'm thinking of these sort of midfield players that you can picture yourself around. But you look at someone that's been there now for the best part of 13 seasons, and Scott Brown. What do you make of Scott Brown's kind of tenure at Celtic? And I mean, how long can he go on for? He just seems to be like a Duracell battery. It just never runs out.
Yeah, I'm happy for him that he's still here and that he won the 9 in a row. And he's one of those players which you love to have in your team. And I think everyone said it, you love to have him in your team, but you hate him to be in the opposing team. He's just one of those players which gets under people's skin. And he's a workhorse. He's passionate for the team and he'll do whatever he can for the win. And there's an argument that he is getting onion years and maybe he shouldn't be playing as much as he is, but he brings something to the team when he's playing. Yeah. And he reminds me a lot of when Beckham used to play for England. When Beckham played for England, I'd always be scared because I'm like, they're going to win because Beckham's just in the team. Yeah. And he's just one of those players which is going to spark something. And Brown's the same for me, where he's the leader. People listen to him and the crowd gets behind him. And it'll be a shame when he retires. I can imagine a lot of people are going to be upset when he retires, but I can imagine him being around the ground all the time. He'll do something like what Lennon's done, where he'll just stick around the team and maybe even move into management. Yeah. But yeah, I don't want to swear because you don't know who's listening. He is a bit of a shit stirrer and you got to love him for it.
I'm going to leave you with this thought that we'll come back to at the end of the podcast. So obviously this season been fantastic, had some great memories over this season. I'm going to leave you to come back because we're going to go on and talk about your career now. To come back at the end of the podcast and think of your favourite memory of this season. So we'll give you to the end to think about that. But so if we go back and look at your career, so obviously growing up in Maryhill, the first time I really started to hear about you was when you did the Edinburgh Fringe and you did the sort of production How to Make a Killing in Bollywood alongside your friend Umar Ahmed. What was that like? Because that sort of shot you from I'm not saying this in a bad way, from sort of nothing but to right in the public eyesight with that, because it received incredible reviews and it went on to do a UK tour. Was that a bit of a surprise for yourself?
Yes, it was. Yeah, it was a complete surprise. So How to Make a Killing in Bollywood, we started working on that in 2012, I think, maybe 2011. And the way that came about was my mate Umar. So Umar and I had met each other at a drama class, which is where I started acting in about 2006, 2005. And we'd always sort of, because we were friends, we always used to hang out together and talk to each other. But Umar moved down south to do his own thing. But we'd always kept in touch. And then we hadn't seen each other in a good while. And then we met up at an audition. And we went into the audition, we did what we had to do. And then we came out and we both looked at each other and Umar said to me, none of us got that. We have not got that role whatsoever. And we went for a drink afterwards and we were trying to figure out, how do we know that we've not got the role? And we sort of came to the conclusion that even though the both of us are, not to blow our own trumpets, but when we're in it, we're really good actors. Even though we're good actors, we're still Asian. And the role that we were going for wasn't an Asian role, which is annoying because we're actors first. We're not Asian first, we're actors first. So we sat down and we were saying, like, what can we do then to sort of talk about this? And Umar said, every time we get together, we always talk about making a project and we never actually do it. So I'm going to say we're going to do this project. So he phoned up his friend Scott Kyle, who had produced Singing I'm Not Billy, He's a Tim, which is about Rangers Celtic. He had the success of Billy and Tim, and he was working at the Regal Theatre in Bathgate at the time. And Umar just asked for space for a week for Umar and me to workshop an idea. So we workshopped an idea, and we came out with this thing. Halfway through the first day, we were working on something. We went to lunch, And we were like, this isn't working. Let's scrap what we're doing and let's start again. What do we really want to say? And what we really wanted to say was we wanted to show how good actors we are. That's all it was. So we came up with this story about two takeaway workers, one of whom wants to be an actor, one of whom's a businessman. And the one who's an actor is, at the end of his role, he's not getting any roles. So he decides that he wants to go to India, Bollywood, to try and make it over there. And he drags his best friend along with him. And the story then becomes about their friendship, what they experience. It becomes about identity. There's love, there's hate, there's everything you need basically to make a Bollywood film. And it's in this play. And it had never been done before in Scotland that we knew of in this way. So we did a showcase for the Regal and we got some good feedback. And Scott came up to us afterwards and he said, I want to tour this. I want you to work on it and tour it. So Umar and me went straight to work. We started working on it. We brought on two other actors, Adam Butch and Storm Skylar McClure. And we did a tour of Scotland, like a small tour. Mm-hmm. And then we got the opportunity to perform at the Fringe. And when we went to the Fringe, we were there for the full 4 weeks. And like you say, the reviews were phenomenal. We started off with a small crowd, and by the end of it, we were selling out. And everyone loved it. Everyone was talking about it. And it was amazing to have that feeling. And then from that, we've done other tours and we've taken it here and there as well. But we've never done a proper Scottish tour yet, like how we want to do it. So we're planning on doing that. We were hoping to do something this year, but obviously with what's happened, we can't really. So maybe next year, hopefully we can get something done. But we really want to play Glasgow because Glasgow's our hometown. And even though it's a Bollywood-esque theatre piece, is for everyone because it's got Scottish humour in it at the end of the day. And a lot of the audience identify with that because we speak with our Scottish accents, we speak in Scottish slang, and we're in India when we're doing it. So yeah, there's a lot to it, there's a lot of substance to it. We just need to pick it up and do it again, really.
So you're saying about the kind of going round and doing a tour, so that was sort of the first time you travelled with it. Was there any sort of funny stories from when you were going around Scotland? Was there any sort of mishaps?
Scott's probably not going to want me to say this, but I'll say it anyway. So Scott, like I say, he was producing it, but at one of the theatres, we couldn't get our technical guy there. He had something else on. So Scott took over technical duties, which is doing the lights and playing the music. So we're halfway through the run, that show, and it's not sold out by any means. There's only like 20 people in the audience because no one really knows of it at this point. Mm-hmm. But we're halfway through and one of the lighting cues gets missed. And if you're on stage, a lighting cue is kind of important because it tells the audience where to look next, it tells the actors where to go next, and it sort of shifts the scene as well. So Scott missed that. And I can't remember who was on stage at the time, but I remember looking at them and going, well, something's not right here. So we shifted anyway to the next scene and the lighting changed. Cool. And then the sound cue got missed. And Scott's in charge of that as well. So we're like, okay, something's really not right here. So we're waiting for the sound to kick in because there's dancing in it as well. So the sound kicks in, we do the dance, and then a couple more things went wrong technically. And then because of this, the actors are obviously, we don't know what's going on, so we're not giving our best performance. So after the show, Scott pulls us aside and he says, we're in the change. I have to wash myself after the show because I get colour thrown on me. So I have to wash myself. And Scott came into the changing room and he said, okay, Manny, on stage in 2 minutes. I need to have a chat with you. So I'm like, okay, cool. So we're all on stage and we're all sitting there. Scott's like, how do you think that went? We're like, oh, we thought it was okay. A couple of technical hitches, but it was fine. And Scott started laying into us about the performance that we gave and how bad it was and how the audience were affected by us not performing well. And we're looking at him going, but the only reason we're doing this happened was because you messed up the cues, you messed up the lights, you messed up the sound. If it wasn't for that, it would have been fine. But Scott's pure laying into us, and Umar and me just looking at each other going, all right, Scott, whatever. But we did the next show anyway, and it was fine. But little things like that happen on stage anyway. But yeah, it was fun and games. We can all look back and laugh at it now.
So Scott, we know there's a good chance you're listening to this. We're going to offer you to come on and offer your side of the story and tell us where Manny and the rest of the gang went wrong and not when it was your fault.
Yeah, Scott, I'd love for that to happen, please.
So going on from that, a lot of the listeners will know you from your role within the Scottish BAFTA award-winning comedy, and I reckon it's the best comedy since Still Game. It's Scot Squad, where you play PC Surjit Singh. Did the role kind of come about because of the success of How to Make a Killing, or was it something else that came about for that?
Not at all. It was basically a mass. The way I remember the comedy unit produced it, and the way I remember them doing it was they just put out a mass call for actors for this new show that they were thinking of doing. And I went along. We had toured Bollywood at that point. Yeah, we toured Bollywood, but we hadn't done the Fringe yet. I think that was what it was. So anyway, we did a mass audition for it, and I went along just thinking, okay, it's another audition. Let's see what we can do. But it was a strange audition because it was all improvised. You had no script. There was nothing to prepare. They told you on the day, okay, be this character. You're talking to this character. Go for it. And just went for it. Just made up as many characters as I could. And I came out of it the way I come out of every audition, thinking, rubbish, I'm not going to get that. And then I went back home, and about 2 weeks later, I think I saw online, or I heard that they'd done a teaser filming of it. And they'd got a couple of guys in the audition to actually come in to do the teaser. And I was like, okay, there's no way I got it then, because obviously they're filming something for it. And then a couple of weeks after that, I got a call from my agent saying, yeah, they want you on board. They're filming a pilot in November, so they want you on board. So I'm like, oh, cool. That'd be amazing. So it was just basically an audition, like a normal audition, but a strange audition because, like I say, it was all improvised, which I'd never done for TV before. I'd done it for theatre, but not for TV.
As I said, you play PC Surjit Singh alongside Graham Stevely, or as he's better known, Grado.
Oh.
And he's a massive Rangers fan. There's no hiding. There's obviously the difference between you two. Is there a good bit of banter when it comes to football?
You know what? Surprisingly, there's not. There's not. There has been a couple of times because we had Chick from BBC on last series where we did a scene with him, and there was football banter then. There has been a little bit of banter just with me taking the piss because of Rangers' situation, but I don't try and push it too much because at the end of the day we have to work together. And I know he's not the type of guy who'll get really angry about that sort of stuff, but in my head I have to try and keep things as professional as possible. And I don't want anything messing up, so I try not to. But it would be fun to actually go in on him about Rangers and where they're at and what they're playing at, basically. But yeah, there's not that much banter, to be honest.
And the quite unique thing about Scot Squad, or how we see it anyway, you might tell us it's different, is there's groups of two in each sort of setting. So you've got like yourself and Grado, Jordan Young, who plays BC Jack McCurdy as well. He's partnered up with his kind of colleague. Is that the way it is? Traditionally, you guys don't meet up to do any sort of filming. You're sort of filming with your twos, or is that just the way we see it on TV?
That's the way it's filmed. So basically what happens is the filming duration of the entire series is about 4, 5, 6 weeks. That's how long they have to film. And what will happen is Grado and me in that 4 or 5 weeks, we'll only come out for maybe 4 days. And we'll do the scenes that we have to do together. And then we're done. That's it. We're finished. And we hardly ever see any of the other cast. So when people ask me, what's it like working with Jordan, or what's it like working with Sally, I honestly don't know because I've never had a scene with them. There may be sometimes where you'll do a scene with another member, but that's only one scene and it'll never last. I've done a scene with the Chief, and that was one scene, and that was it. But apart from that, there may be some crossover where you'll have a half day and you'll finish your day and someone else is coming in for theirs. But even then, you only talk to them for like 5 minutes before they have to run off. So it's a shame because the cast is so huge and the cast is so big that you want to be able to sit with each other and talk to each other about what each other's up to, but it never really happens that way. Yeah,
and there's some really good characters within the Scot Squad team. You've got, as I've mentioned, Jordan Young as well, and Darren Connell, who plays Bobby, who's actually he's a massive Celtic fan as well. Have you had the chance to work with Darren before?
I've never. We did Children in Need one year, but it was a Scot Squad River City crossover, and it was myself, Karen, and Darren with a couple of the guys from River City, and that was the only time I really got to work with him. But I never spoke to him in the scene, which is a shame. But I'd really like to work with him because he is hilarious. I love how he does Bobby. Bobby's one of my favourite characters, and I think everyone would probably say that Bobby is one of their favourite characters. And I'd love to be able to do a scene with him where Surjit Singh is in the police station and Bobby's coming in. But just in general as well, just the way Darren is in real life, I'd love to be able to work with him in another capacity because he's a nice guy, first of all, and he's very talented as well. And his humour is really, really dark, which I like. So I'd love to be able to work with him properly.
I mean, I'm a big fan of Scot Squad. I've watched pretty much all the episodes, probably 2 or 3 times. And some of the clips you see on YouTube are hilarious. I was watching one the other day. It was yourself and Grado, and you're being called out to a job, and Grado's having his lunchtime snack, which was the munchie box, and defrosting the screen. Is there a lot of improvisation going on in those bits, or is a lot of that scripted?
No, so pretty much all of it is improv. The only thing which is scripted is the scenario. So like you say, the scenario is we're going for lunch, Grado's got a munchie box. We get called out, and Grado has to throw the food on the window to defrost it. We have to get to that point where Grado has to throw the food on.
Mm-hmm.
But everything sort of in between, we have to work it up to that point where eventually he throws that on the window, and everything is improvised at that point. So the way we film it is we'll film it 2 or 3 times, and each time we cut, the director and the writer will come up to us and say, keep this in, we like this. For the next time round, maybe get rid of this because that's taken too long. So by the time we do it the second time around, it's a little bit sharper. And then by the time we get to the third time, we know what we're doing. So we scripted it pretty much ourselves from the first time around. So we know what works and we know what doesn't work. But a lot of the show is like they'll let the cameras run for 10 minutes sometimes. And it's just film everything. Everything you say is getting filmed. And the show is actually made in the edit. The director sits there and he goes through every single thing we do and cuts out what he wants and what he doesn't want. And there's so much of it that doesn't make it onto the screen, which is a shame because there's times where you think that was such a good line, I had such a good joke there, and it never makes it to the screen purely for story reasons, which is, I'd love to see an extended cut. I'd love to see the cuts that haven't made it, because there'd be some really funny stuff in there, not just from Grado and me, but from everyone. And it'd be good to see what other people are doing, which hasn't made it to the screen as well. But that's pretty much the process. We'll get told, this is what you're doing, go do it. And we'll film it 2 or 3 times. And
as you're saying, you do that as improv, it must be such a struggle to get through the scenes without breaking into laughter, because some of the stuff is generally absolutely hilarious. So when you're saying 2 or 3 takes, there must be times where it's been 6, 7, 8 times by the time you actually get round to it.
Yeah, it's you try as hard as you can not to laugh. And if you look closely enough, there are some scenes where you see me turning away from the camera, and that's because I am laughing. We did the scene on the bus where Grado had to take a woman off the bus, and the woman starts petting him. And I cracked up during that scene. I couldn't hold it together. And you see me, I'm trying to get her off him, but you see my face turn away from the camera because I'm just laughing. And you can't help it because it is a comedy at the end of the day. And it makes it funnier, but it also makes it worse when you see the cameraman and the soundman and the director laughing as well. Behind the scenes, you can't do anything about it. You have to continue on with the scene. But when you're seeing them cracking up a little bit, it's that infection thing, isn't it? Where you see someone laughing, so you have to laugh as well. But it's difficult, but it is hilarious at the same time. It's a weird way of working. It's so loose, and it's not as regimented as a normal film set. And that's fun. I like working in that environment.
And obviously we've mentioned you work alongside Grado, and you came from an acting background, whereas Grado sort of came from the wrestling scene and working for ICW, going on to do stuff in America and stuff like that. When you were working with him, did you feel as if you were passing on a lot of sort of training to him, or did it just come natural to him?
It's a bit of both. It started off where when he first came in, he was very nervous and he was asking for tips and tricks and everything like that. And I was like, okay, maybe try doing this way and doing that way. But Grado's a character. Because he's performing anyway. When he's wrestling, he's performing anyway. So he knows how to act. He knows how to perform. He doesn't really need much from anyone to tell him, okay, this is how you should be doing it. And you mentioned it before, like there are some really nice characters, some really good characters on Scot Squad, and Grado's one of them. Like my character, and it works for him because my character is be stoic, be straight, be the straight man. I don't make the jokes. I'm there for Grado. Grado's the one who is the funny man. And in real life, that's what he's like. He's loud. He talks to everyone. He says what's on his mind. And he is funny in real life as well. So he's just amplifying himself into Hugh McCurdy. And it works. It works for him. And it's awesome seeing him do what he does.
Yeah, and it obviously comes together because the two of you work so well together. Do you think it's kind of helped you as an actor working with someone like him that's, as I say, they're still sort of learning the ropes? Are you picking up things maybe from him as well? Or do you feel as if it's just you coming to a period where you're the kind of elder statesman, you're sort of helping train the next sort of generation of actors coming through?
No, not at all. Not when it comes to Grado. Don't get me wrong, like when I see a new actor coming through, I'll help him as much as I can, or her as much as I can. And I like doing that. I like passing on knowledge. So when it comes to Grado, I like working with him because he reminds me of taking risks, if that makes sense. I've been acting since about 2005, and when I started I was raw. Like I didn't go to drama school, I didn't do any of that. I just started community college, and because I started in community college, I could take more risks in how I wanted to act and how I wanted to put a performance across. But as I've done more and more acting, I've sort of built a mold for myself where this is how I feel I should be acting. This is how I feel I should be auditioning. When I see Grado do what he's doing, he's got no fear. He'll just go and do what he wants to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I look at that and I go, man, I used to be like that. I should be like that right now. So I like learning that from him, because in my head for a while there was a thought that there's a certain way that I need to be on set to be professional and to act a certain way and to make sure that everyone knows that I am a professional. When it's not the case. Like, you create the character and you do it. That's how it should be. It shouldn't be a case of putting these boundaries on yourself that I need to fit myself into this box so that everyone likes me on this set kind of thing. And Grado's like that. He's like I say, Grado is himself. How he is on screen is how he is in real life. If we're shooting a scene and someone shouts his name and they want a picture taken, he'll take a picture with them. Mm-hmm. And the amount of time that he's done that to take a picture with someone, we get stopped all the time, and every single time he'll take a picture. And I think there's a lot that I can learn from that, where it's like, have fun with it, because not everyone gets the opportunity to do this. And I don't know how long it's going to last for me. This may be the last thing I ever do. So the biggest thing for me is looking at him is just have fun with it and enjoy it while it lasts. So I'm learning that from him. When it comes to other people, when it comes to new actors coming through, I like working with them and getting their confidence up, because a lot of the time their confidence isn't what it should be. Mm-hmm. And you see someone and you're like, you're actually a good actor. You just need to bring it out of yourself a bit more. And I like working with actors in that way. So I don't know whether I've answered your question or not. I've talked a lot, but I think there's an answer in there somewhere, so you can edit it in if you want.
I don't think so. I think that was actually a very good answer. What would you say to people that's not seen Scot Squad before? How would you describe it to them, and what episode or which scene would you show them to try and get them on board?
That's a difficult one. I think the way I describe Scot Squad to someone who's never seen it is basically it's a mock documentary about the Scottish police force, and that's the best way I can describe it. If I was to tell someone to watch a certain scene, it would have to be Bam or No Bam. I think that's one of the funniest things I've ever seen. Mm-hmm. Sally, I think it was, who came up with Bam or No Bam. But I think, and that's the beauty of the show, where because it's improvised, you can create something iconic from nothing. Yeah. But if I was to point anyone to a specific start on their journey for Scot Squad, it would be Bam or No Bam.
Yeah, and that was brilliant. That's Greg Hemphill's wife, Julie Nimmo, who plays one of the scenes, and she interprets basically Neil Bratch's piece, who says gibberish, but she gets it. So it's actually a very, very funny scene. On Scot Squad, can you give us some exclusive news? Is there plans for a 6th series? Was that going to be happening before this lockdown? Can you give us anything for the fans that's out there listening? I'm
pretty sure I can say it, because I think we did post it online, but Series 6 is coming. We were a week and a half into filming it before the lockdown happened. I'd filmed one day, and I think the second day that I was supposed to be coming out is when production got shut down, and then lockdown started the week after. So we were filming, and we were in the process of doing it. And so we were filming Series 6, and Chris Toll was in one of the scenes as well. I don't know whether we're going to have to refilm that, but it was funny with him in it as well. So it will be coming out. We just don't know when.
It'll be interesting to see how social distancing comes into filming, because you see the likes of EastEnders and Coronation Street are all back filming, but like you guys in the police car, that's quite difficult, because there's no way there's sort of 2 metres apart. So is there any sort of plans for when you'll be back filming again, or is there any projects you've had that's been put on hold because of this?
I was due to do a theatre tour with a play which got put back, and we were doing Scot Squad, and I think there was something else as well. I can't remember what, but there were 3 projects that I had lined up which went kaput. Mm-hmm. I was in The Demon Headmaster last year, and there's been talk about Series 2 coming back as well, but that's not been confirmed yet. We don't know when that's happening. I don't even know if I'm properly in it or not. Apart from that, it's just Scot Squad. But again, you just don't know. Like you said, you can't social distance when it comes to filmmaking. Mm-hmm. Because you've got hair, you've got makeup, you've got costume, and especially with us, with the characters we play, we're police officers, and you've seen yourself, we've had scenes where we've had to scuffle with people and lock people up and put them in handcuffs. That you can't do social distancing with that. Yeah. And I'm not sure I'd be too comfortable doing that at this time either. So we just don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, it's certainly going to be an interesting future for the likes of filmmaking. It's funny, I just want to touch before we move on and we find out what your big Celtic highlight of this season was. You are police officers in Scot Squad. Has there ever been a point where you've been filming where you have actually been mistaken for actual police, or how's that part of the contract when you're filming? Have you got to get special permission from the council to do that?
We get mistaken for police all the time. When when we're filming, especially because we're in the car, we're in a mocked up police car, so we have the police signs and the police logos and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
When we're not filming and we're driving to a certain location, the signs have to be covered up.
Mm-hmm.
But when we are filming and the cameras are rolling, the signs can be visible, which is cool. But whenever we're out in the street, whether it's myself and Grado or whether it's any of the other teams who are walking about the street, they have to have police escorting them as well. So there are always two police officers, real police officers on set, which is good for us because we can talk to them and ask them for their input into the scene on how things work. But it's good talking to them as well because the amount of police officers who like the show and who can relate to the show as well, some of the stories that the real police officers tell us, it's unbelievable, some of the stuff that happens out there. The stuff in Scot Squad is nothing compared to real life. But we do have real police officers helping us, and there have been instances where we have been called upon as real police officers and we've had to say, actually, look over there, go that way, they'll help you out. Yeah, so we do have real police officers.
So you've kind of wrapped up where you are right now. Plans for the future? You're saying obviously you're going to do the tour and things like that. Is there anything, what's your sort of ambitions for the next few years?
So I've always wanted to, my dream has always been writing and directing. So I'm hoping to move in that direction in the next couple of years. I'm part of the BBC Writers' Room, Scottish Voices, for this year. Mm-hmm. And I need to write a script and submit it before the end of the year. And I've not started it at all. So I'm in a good place. I'm in a really good place.
Lots of time you've been locked down.
I know, mate. Honestly, don't say that because it's been, 6-7 weeks of lockdown and I've not touched it at all. I've had maybe one idea and I've written down one line and that's about it. And I'm kicking myself now because I'm like looking back on what happened to that 6 weeks. Oh, I spent it on the PlayStation. That's what I was doing. But yeah, writing and directing, I think that's where I want to be. That's the next stage for me. Mm-hmm. If anything comes to the acting side of things, then cool. I'd love for that to happen. But for me, it's directing and writing. That's where I want to be.
It's certainly interesting. And I think the improv side of things will probably help with that when you're doing the writing and stuff. So, I mean, we look forward to seeing what's coming up soon. Hopefully look forward to seeing the next series of Scot Squad when it comes out.
Yeah, definitely.
We can look forward to seeing him as part of the Demon Headmaster on CBBC. But let's go back then. We've given you the length of the podcast now. If you had to pick one Celtic moment from this season, what would be your highlight of season 19-20?
So it's not actually a Celtic highlight, but Celtic are involved in it. Okay. It would have to be Old Firm game at Parkhead at the turn of the year, purely because of that celebration from Steven Gerrard. And I think it's what Celtic needed to kick their ass in gear, because after that happened, we just went on an amazing run. And had the season continued, I think that run would have continued. Mm-hmm. But just from a fan point of view and watching that happen, watching the game happen the way it happened, and then the celebrations at the end of it, I think there's nothing better than the poetic justice that happened at the end of the season, where we were crowned 9 in a row. And I can understand the celebrations that happened because it's the first time you've beaten Celtic in so many years at that ground. But we all know they were a little bit over the top.
Yeah.
And there's nothing better than to look back and say, well, yeah, you had that win, but we've got 9 trophies. So there you go.
Exactly. And I think if you look back at it now, if Steven Gerrard doesn't win a trophy next season, for me personally, I think he'll go down as a failure as Rangers manager because he's not won anything. And that celebration, you were right, it was completely over the top, but it gave us the emphasis to go to Dubai, to train hard, come back. We've seen guys like Lee Griffiths that came back firing on all cylinders. And you're right, the gap could have been even bigger by the end of the season. So it's probably a pivotal point in the season and a right good turning point for us.
It's not my place to say because I'm not a Rangers fan. I don't know what's happening with the Rangers team. I don't keep up to date with them. But you look at what Paul Le Guen did for them and the win-lose ratio that he had compared to what Gerrard's got. And it's like, it's not far off. Mm-hmm. And in my view, again, as a Celtic fan who's not affiliated with Rangers at all, but if I was looking at it from that point of view, I'd be going, he's only here because of name. It's only because he's Steven Gerrard. If it was anyone else, he would have been kicked out ages ago. And you have to think to yourself, is that right for the team? Would you rather have the name or would you rather have more success? And yeah, he came close to Celtic at the start of the season, but since the turn of the year, Rangers have been in freefall. So, but again, it's not up to us to say. I can't really comment on it either because it's not my place. But there you go.
I think we can both agree, though, if he's going to remain in place and they're not going to win any trophies, then we'll both be happy men.
Yeah, I mean, hey, keep him on if you want. I mean, like you say, we want Steven Gerrard to stay, by all means.
Gerrard must stay for the 10. That's the signing off. Manny, where can we find you on Twitter or on TV? Where are you at the moment?
So I've got a weird handle online, and it's from my youth when a girl who I was training with at the BBC, she was cool and she called me Manny with a J. So I've run with that handle ever since, and that's what I'm called on everything. So it's MANI, then the digit number 2, THAJ.
Thanks for joining us, and please stay safe during this. We'll hope to catch up with you in the not too distant future, just before we start celebrating the 10th, when we get the celebration and the banners, all that out. And Celtic, if you're listening, Manny wants to play in the next charity game, so get in touch. He'll do more running than most of the celebs that will come on board, and he'll not spew at the side of the park like somebody from 1B.
Thank you, it was a pleasure.